I had a request last night at SCX24 Mods and Fun at Facebook group for a video to show the effects of adding the kinetic shocks to the back of my crawlers. So today we're at my off-road center for research and shenanigans, and today I've got my original truck that's modded out real heavy. It's got brass everything on it. Just saying this so that you know for reference when it comes time for you to do your own judgments as to whether this works right. But I've got the curved high clearance links. It's brassed out. I've got the RC four-wheel drive rage wheels. This is my car that has the big disaster of a servo on it. It's amazing though. It's got a ton of torque, and it has the kinetic shocks that provide a massive amount of travel. I kept the front stock just because the front stock will limit extension, and that's all it gets in front. It's clearly not that much, but this is a heavily modded out car. This is my SCX24 deadbolt, and it has the PN70 motor. Most of the modifications to this one have been just removing weight from the top, and I've added just different shock mounts so that I could run a wider gap here for the battery. I've removed the entire battery mount and made my own, and the battery now mounts with Velcro. Same thing though. As far as the suspension goes, you can see it's all plastic parts. I have high clearance only the backs. The fronts are still straight, and I don't really think that with the deadbolt front suspension I'm going to gain that much by high clearancing them. I'll probably do it at a later date, but you can see that I've added no brass at all to the suspension. I have added an Emax servo, and you ever have one of those moments where you feel like you're in a YouTube video where it says it was at that moment he knew he did something bad? Anyway, some of you remember that I had bought a brass Emax servo mount, and I have, just to show you, I have not mounted it yet. The reason I just bought a brand new axle and have not installed it yet is I'm gonna brass this whole thing out, and it's gonna have diff covers, the hexes, the hubs on the end, and the hot racing linkage. But I just wanted to let you know, since some of you knew that I bought it, that it's not installed on the truck yet. What I did was the servo, the Emax, I basically chopped up the mount, and the servo was kind of loose in there, so I sort of super glued it in, and that actually made it more permanent than I had expected. So I can't actually take the mount off of this axle anymore. It no longer comes off when you unscrew these top two diff bolts in here. So I just went ahead and bought an entirely new front axle. It was only 25 bucks, so I thought, why not? And then when I finally do decide to put it on, it can be completely brassed out and ready to go, fully upgraded, and it's not going to be a stage truck. But anyway, the long and short of it is, the only thing that's not stock on this entire suspension are the links, which I have bent using stock parts, the rage wheels, and the shocks that we're going to talk about today. They do travel a long way. Again, same thing for the front. I kept the stock travel up front. The shocks are stock. On both cars, I have cut off that little fake reservoir because I thought it looked stupid, and I inverted them just to get a cumulative effect of as much CG lowering as possible. So with that done, we'll just take a look, and you can see that there is quite a bit of flex. It almost looks like the car's jacked up when it is at full extension. So we'll get a few running videos for those of you who want to see how it runs. Just a side note on this Emax servo, if you'll permit me to go back one more time. When you get a Emax servo, you might want to shorten the cord a little bit, because if you don't, that is the amount of cord that is extra that you don't need that comes with an Emax. So if you're good at soldering, just go ahead and shorten it. It's going to make a much cleaner install, but the amount of cord they give you versus the amount that you need is kind of a ridiculously long thing to have to deal with otherwise. All right, the first thing we're going to look at here is an extension test. With a stock vehicle, it cannot get over this rock here that you see without gunning it. It needs momentum to go over. I'll show you stock suspension with the Jeep. That I'll show you how it bottoms out in just a second. All right, full stock. You can see that when this starts coming over, it'll hit right about here, and as soon as the frame hits, you're going to lighten either the front or back wheels. And in order to get over this, it has to be gunned, and it needs momentum to clear it, because the frame bottoms out, and as soon as that happens, you offload the weight from the tires. Also, in stock form, you can see this teeter-tottering where neither wheel is going to touch, and it just does not have the suspension droop to get the wheels back on the ground, well, for either side. I'm just going to demonstrate that. I'm not going to run this car today. It's just here for purposes. My dad's. I don't want to tear it up for him. Yeah, notice I did add a heat sink to the side of the motor, and those do actually work. So I wish I'd have moved it forward and added a second one behind it, but I got them on eBay, like $10 for 10 of them, I believe. No, it was at $6.50 actually. $6.50 shipped. So anyway, we'll start off with the deadbolt. Another difference here is I've got Patagonias versus Scramblers. There's a huge size difference, and that will matter for terrain clearance. So without further ado, we'll show you how this works with the Patagonias and the Kinetic shocks in the back. Fully up, and what happens is it'll get up there, and then even with full droop, I'm still hitting the frame. The Patagonias. So it is helpful because I do have the front wheels down and it's still touching on both ends, but the second I try to crawl it, it doesn't want to do anything. Now, if I gun it, I can get it over. Alright, this is my modded out, brassed up rig with the Scrambler tires, and the Scramblers do offer quite a bit better terrain clearance, and you'll see why here in a moment. First of all, they're a good compound, they're sticky. You can get the wheel over the top, and this one has enough weight and enough clearance so you can see that you can just drive right over, and that's not something you can do with stock suspension or tires. So that is one benefit of the Kinetic shocks. The rear extension will keep the tires on the ground a whole lot longer. That's a great thing. I'll show you a few other runs here, and just where this extension works out great. Alright, this is part of my course. I call it the Gray Elephant Mountain Highway. And I'll start off with the deadbolt. And in order to do this, it's best to be able to kind of run your tire over the rock, because it'll make a tighter turn. And you can see that it is significantly easier to do to make that tighter turn when the back will articulate over. And now the competition buggy. it didn't even flinch. Next thing we'll do is just run down the rock bypass. I have built this course so that basically anybody's car could do it. I've also built it so almost nobody's car can do it in other places. So if you're ever in town in Iowa and you want to come try out my course, just drop me a line. I'd love to have you over. But right now I'm going to run this path here both directions. This rock here does have a bit of an angle on it, and we'll get some side hilling going on. Also, you can see here that the rock that they're currently sitting on after coming down the mountain there are just where I parked them from the last thing we looked at. It's pretty steep here, and neither car can really make the side hilling happen, but I'll show it to you anyway. Before the deadbolt could do it, but it's lost a little tiny bit of side hilling, but it's more than made up for it with the articulation and extension that you'll see next. One of the nice things about the suspension setup is it just flows over rocks. If you just want to do a continuous crawl, it really can do that. If the servo horn doesn't hang up, it's just going to flow right over everything. It doesn't have any issues. Try to get some good shots for you here. This one to show the suspension working real well. Try to get it to full extension for you there. This is just a fun part of the course that I like driving, because it gets the car real steep. And those big scramblers just pull it right over. I'll try running the same line with the deadbolt. And I wish they could build a tire that has the sure-footedness of the Patagonia with the size of the Scrambler. And that would be an awesome setup. I got my right rear in the air over there. That's why it doesn't like it. This is one of the more tricky climb lines in the entire course. There it goes. Alright, that's the Scramblers. And we'll try it with the Patagonias. Again, this is a completely unweighted suspension, so here we go. Same line as before. It's that tipping point right there. See how it's got both front tires off the ground right now, but for climbs, if you don't put the kinetic shocks in the front, it will retain the stock extension, and I like that because they'll try to help keep the nose down. So we'll do the same procedure as before with the other car. Get it lined out. Another thing, weight up front, when you're tipped way up like that, weight up front will help with the steering, because the majority of the weight right now is on the rear axle, and without extra weight on the front axle, the tires just don't have a lot of friction, and the rear tires do. So at this angle, the rear tires are more effective for directional control than the fronts. So that's why sometimes you'll turn, but the car won't turn when it's pointed up. There's just no weight on the tires to give you any grip. We'll give it a shot. Thought she was gonna go over there. Once I get the front axle done and installed, this will be no problem for this car. But as you can see, it is just a stock suspension. I'll try to get a line for you that actually does work, or a video of it that does work. And I'm running into my other car, but it did make it. Some days I can do this line, and other days just can't do it. Don't know what the difference is. But there's some full extension for you. Just trying to climb. And I've got the wheel in the air. Once you got a wheel in the air, you're risking a little bit of a flip, and I don't anticipate this being successful. Even with full extension, there's just nothing for the front wheels to bite onto. There we go. Got some full extension going on that time. Alright. Here's another note. Because these tires are vastly different sizes, you'll notice that the Scramblers do have a lot of sidewall flex. And the entire tire can deform a lot right and left. And that's great for getting grip. I don't see that these get any less grip, but the sidewall's a lot shorter and they give a lot more sure-footed feel. The difference is they just obviously will not have the same terrain clearance as the other ones. I'm thinking about putting the mudslingers on this car, but I don't know if I will. I might have a second set of wheels so I can go back and forth, because I really like the sure-footed feel of the deadbolt with the Patagonias. They're an excellent tire. Well, I'm not sure if I met the objective of today's video, but I had a good time. Hope I shared some information that can help you. These are awesome. it's a huge upgrade over stock. But I would only do them on the back, because if you do them on the front and back, you're going to lose so much roll control just due to overextension of the suspension that first it's going to kill the climb, but it'll also roll over.